Savory.
It's the name of my bank.
Council.
One out.
Okay, I think it's coming through now. Yep, Council President Anderson, can you hear us?
Clear, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So there are three of us. We have a quorum. You can go ahead and put us on the record. All right, we are on the air. Welcome to our March 3rd. It's March already. Our March 3rd work session. We have two 1-hour items on our agenda, and the first one is behavioral health and housing services update with Greg Elkins from our police department, Brett Husher from our library director, Glenn Suhanik, who also works with the police department, and partners from Love One.
So, yeah, Mayor, members of council, Joey B, thank you guys for having us here. This is great. Here tonight, just talk about some homeless outreach that we've done throughout the year, what our plan is kind of moving forward. I'm gonna go from there. If you guys have questions along the way, feel free to shoot them at us all you want. So just our agenda is, again, just about who we are and kind of what we do and who we're partnering with as well too. First off, we have our amazing Love One team right here with Brandy, who's the executive director of Love One. Don Holden is the houseless outreach person for Love One. We have Glenn Suhanik as well, who's executive, get that title right, deputy director, sorry about that. And Rita is somewhere here as well too, so.
She's comped.
They are a great team, and I know that you guys know Love One and what they've done, but without them, we probably wouldn't be where we are with outreach team that we have in Milwaukee and the help that we get. They just do such amazing things for us. How long ago did we partner with you guys?
Oh my goodness.
It's been a while.
Yes,
I know that
yes,
you
it's
and
been
Luke,
really
our former Chief Luke Straight, are the ones that kind of really started that relationship with Brandy and Glenn as well, and then we got Glenn on board, and it's made a huge difference for us. As officers, we were really kind of, I hate to say that we were handcuffed with what we could do with the houseless community as well too. Just we didn't have the resources, and a lot of what they do is the important part, which is the follow up with them and making sure that they're following up and getting the resources they need to help that they get. So it's been just an amazing partnership that we hope that we can continue on for a long time. So thank you guys.
You're stuck with us.
This is just kind of a slide just to show you where we're at with our officers right now. Currently have about 31 officers, that's including the 3 admin, chief, operations captain, Jerry Dino, and myself as well too. Numbers down a little bit. We've had some retirements, we've had some people leave, but we're looking to get those numbers up. Currently have about 3 or 4 more officers in the background that we hope pass their background and get them hired up in April, where they can start an academy as well too.
Did you say former officers?
4 more officers that we can get on board. They'd be new. We still have openings for laterals. We just had Johnny Vanbrick with Walton come over as part of our traffic team. He's a lateral officer. It's been a great addition so far as well too. Just wanted to put those numbers up. That's kind of one of the reasons why we're just kind of a little bit handcuffed, but I know that you guys have been working hard too to help us get those numbers up. With the utility fee that just passed, we've been able to get our hiring process started more and get more going. And part of that huge success with behavioral health is we're able to add another person. If we go to the next slide, we'll talk about our behavioral health team, which consists of only Glenn Suhanik now. That starting Monday, March 9th, we will have Trista Erickson joining our team as a behavioral health case manager. She's coming over from Clatsop Behavioral Health unit over there. She's been there since 2019. She comes with a ton of experience. She's got a great attitude. She's super outgoing and fun. She's going to fit in great here. Really what we want to see with this is, with Glenn right now, we only have about 4 days of solid coverage that we have. And that's great, and Glenn has done a tremendous job and helped with that, but we just have 3 other days that we don't have anybody here. So the goal with Trista would be to, Glenn works Monday through Thursday, and the goal with Trista was we're going to put her on a Wednesday through Saturday schedule. So we'll have 6 days of coverage of behavioral health support, which is going to be tremendous and huge.
Is hers going to also be more evening hours, or it's going to be a daytime?
It'll be mostly day shift hours, but like Glenn does too, kind of those hours kind of fluctuate as needs. Like Glenn's working tonight, gonna go late, help somebody get to the stabilization center, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well too. So she's probably will train with Glenn right off the bat for a few weeks, so she'll be on that Monday through Thursday schedule with Glenn. And once she kind of gets to know the area, the members and other resources around here, she'll be out on her own as well too. So we're really looking to do that. That's going to be just a huge benefit for the PD and the community itself. So we're looking forward to that. So, and then when she starts Monday too, we will set up a time to have her come down and say hi to you guys, introduce herself. So she's just a really great person. She's going to fit it well. I think you guys will really like her.
And you were saying we've got 4 days of really behavioral health coverage right now.
Correct.
This will go up to 7 days after we have this second person on?
6 days.
6 days.
So typically Glenn works Monday through Thursday and Trista will work Wednesday through Saturday.
I think the big goal of that is to have those 2 days overlap with us, so we can really consult and follow through on stuff and, help be able to give her some supervision and stuff. So she'll be able to do everything I can do, just so she's not master level clinician, but she is right under that. It'd be great.
Behavioral health support, kind of what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. November was 3 years, so I've been here over 3 years. In November will be 4. A lot of mine are referrals. I do a lot of police report follow-ups, and then I also follow along on the radio on the times I'm here. And the referrals can come, I have them come in from the judge and, just different community partners. And the goal is, I talk a lot about like people that just don't have any hope or don't want to live. Most of I would say probably 98% of the people I engage with are housed, just our housed neighbors struggling. I've met, I can drive by a lot of places in the town and say, oh, I've been there. Last year I had like 569 contacts. This year, I've a little lower than that, but that's good. That means that things are working out. People are not needing as long and they're getting connected to resources. As a crisis worker, my goal is to get them connected to resources. So I'm so thankful to have the stabilization center here, so thank you so much for being a big part of that. We've had 17, just Milwaukie alone has had 17 stays in there. It's about to be 18 as soon as they go grab this person and take them over there tonight. Since they opened in mid-December, so that's huge. That's 18 deference from the hospital or jail, right? So I'm really happy for that. And then other resources.
Before you move on from that, I know the length of time somebody could be there could be as long as three months or so.
No, so the stabilization center is 23 hours.
Oh, that. Okay.
Yeah, 59 minutes and 59 seconds.
Okay, so you're not talking about the residential side. Okay.
No, yeah, we can talk more about that, and I'll actually let Randy talk a little bit about that since Father's Heart runs that side.
Okay.
No, so yeah, just under 24, 1 minute under 24 hours. And as a clinician, so even if law enforcement refers into the stabilization center and say somebody needs a little bit more time to, work with the counselor there, the peer, or the EMT that's there, myself or anybody from the mobile response team can place an extension to give them a little bit longer to work with somebody. I've did that a few times. I have somebody that's been in there she's been there 5 or 6 times, but uses it as a safe place, instead of our local hospital, or, you know, and I've helped her get to Rainier Springs, and I think that's another thing too, is if they need a little bit longer, or if somebody's actively, has a plan, to commit suicide, you know, that's probably more where it's gonna be a hospital stay. But then when they get out, they might still have some of those thoughts and want a safe place, so the stabilization center's been really great. And then the peer works to make sure they got some aftercare, you know, so are they reconnected with their primary care and their therapist? Do they have a peer referral for outside the stabilization center? So it's been really good partnership.
And one of the things too is I like to really harp on is the fact of the importance of the information that Glenn, Brandy, and Don all brought to the officers and the PD. Before they really came on board is, like I said before, we kind of, our hands were tied of what to really do with some of these people that were in crisis or having some difficulty finding houses. We just didn't have the resources or ideas of kind of really where to guide them to get them. And ultimately, they're still the ones doing the follow-up for us, but they've helped the officers with so many ideas of how to approach it in the meantime until Glenn or Dawn can reach out to them or get assistance with loved one as well too. So it's just given the officers just so many more abilities to help these people in the short time if Glenn or these people aren't on shift right now. So it's been a tremendous way for us to really change the way kind of we do these stuff sometimes. So it's been a really good benefit for us as well. So.
And I would say the same sort of support network at the library too. Like you've given us tools, and hopefully we've, in turn, sort of made those connections.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing too that about it is, you know, it's not being a billable service, which everybody is used to, like, oh, I got 50 minutes with you and we're gonna wrap this up kind of thing. I can spend 5 minutes or I can spend 5 hours. It just depends on the situation, whatever helps me get to the next step. And, you know, the people I see are from 7 all the way to 92.
It kind of closes the circle a bit for us. I know Brent was gracious and sat down with me, so I get copies of the PITS reports. So when there's incidents at the library, those go out to the distribution list. And I had asked for a little more information because I thought one of the individuals described, but it didn't have a name, was someone that we were also helping navigate through the 13-bed shelter portion of the stabilization center, and who we had interactions with at the day center and some of our laundry events. And it was, so now I can log in and see the other information. And so we like the library did this, I don't know if it was Kelly or Jana, but they flagged one of our folks who actually was a resident in the 13-bed shelter for a while, and just said, hey, so-and-so came in, they were trying to work on this, they got frustrated, they left. So then I was able to send that right over to the team and say, hey, she's on her way back, this is what she was working on. They're like, great, we'll sit down with her and we'll help her finish that document, you know. And so it was just like this seamless, so she was worked up, but we already knew what she needed, and then we were able to support that. So it's really helping.
That level of coordination doesn't really exist in other places that I've worked.
This one is stats from just Glenn alone from the last year, and I really wish I would have added the stats from the previous year in there as well too. Because what you would see is the numbers that Glenn had from last year have actually gone down, and it's a good thing. You tell, it shows that it's working. His help is doing a great thing. He said less contacts. That's because they're getting the resources that they need. He's taking less calls, but he's just, like I said, he's helped. You want to just go ahead and continue talking about that, all right?
Yeah, no problem. Last year was 569 contacts, and I think we're at what?
I think it's at 200 and, yeah.
That's significant. Yeah, 280. So probably about, I mean, if I went to right now, it's about 315. I think just since we pulled this data, had probably about 40 engagements. But if you see, like, the biggest two is my police report follow-up. I think that's really important too. And that's a high number. That means the officers are utilizing the service. They're shooting the reports over when I'm not around, going, hey, this person could use some follow-up. And it could be from, maybe they're on a domestic and somebody's experiencing mental health, during that, or they need some follow-up, or their kids are really struggling and parents don't know what to do, and I'm helping to get them connected to some other services, or they were on a police officer hold and I'm doing some follow-up. So it's really a gambit of services to offer. And then you can see, mobile with police, I've been on scene 39 times with officers, and then 5 times without an officer. And then mobile outreach too, so that kind of goes with every time I'm on scene or I'm off scene and I put out a mobile outreach form, that's kind of a really, a longer diagnostic of kind of what's going on. I'm seeing what's going on with the person. So you're going to see more of that. And then the phone contacts, so it's just a lot of my follow-ups. Most of my phone contacts too are in the police report follow-ups. That's the first thing I do is call and just say, hey, I'm the behavioral health specialist here, how can I support you? And it could be anywhere from, like I said, from kiddo that's really struggling, and I've had, I've joined the Clackamas County Threat Assessment Team, and I have in some of the threat assessment for the schools, for our kiddos that are really struggling. So really trying to get more involved with some of the biggest systems on how I can help our people that are struggling in the city. And some of that will be a lot to be able to turn over to the case manager. Some of that longer term follow-up where, I'm spending every week with somebody, or longer term really getting them involved so they can do more of the case management. So I've kind of been doing both.
Yeah, and we have a really good relationship with Glenn where he comes into our briefings every day, usually our afternoon briefings, and updates us on what's going on, what kind of cases he's working, or if he's got somebody housed, or resources, or if there's a plan set in place for somebody. So if in the meantime there is any sort of police contact, we know what the plan is with that person, and we kind of help guide them as well too. So as you can tell, it's not necessarily the ultimate solution for this, but it's making a huge impact just in the city of Milwaukie alone. So it's been a really, really good thing for us as well. So
Before you go off of stats, could you, we know that more people are losing their housing, and we know that Portland is doing more enforcement that is probably pushing more people across our border. Do you have a general houselessness number of calls figure, which wouldn't necessarily all be behavioral health cases, obviously? But,
I can't think of a stat that we necessarily have to that, something that we could probably look up. Or you talk about just basically just somebody looking for.
Just what's up, how has our number picked up over the
I
last?
think you'll see some in the library numbers,
Yeah.
in terms of behavioral incidents, as well as contacts that we've referred on, as also water bottles and food that we provide. Like those numbers ticked up. If you look 1 year ago, excuse me, like it's significantly more. And it, I think there's probably a tie-in to the enforcement in Portland, but it's hard to say, right? It's also winter, and like we see a cyclical thing in terms of behaviors and folks needing things.
Yeah, I think the numbers, you're seeing an average of at least 5 each week at the library.
I think if you see Glenn's numbers going down, I think it's showing that it helps, but you'll see Brent's numbers coming up, and the year before aren't on there either, but yeah, his numbers have gone up. But I also think that's because it's working. People know where to go to get resources. They know that this is a safe place for them to go. They can get a bottle of water, they can get a bag of snacks, they can get the resources that they need. So this is definitely something that's helping for that.
Countywide, they're seeing an increase of 120 people, 130 every month getting added to the list, and only about 30 coming off.
So today at 1:30, they had the county commissioners had a briefing from health, from
HCD?
Mhm. And he gave a stat that they had, I have it right here, actually. There are 582 new houseless people every month. There are about 332 that they are able to accommodate in existing programs. And then, so there's about 250 going unserved.
A month or a year?
He said a month. Yeah, it was a very gloomy presentation, but I definitely recommend it. It's only about 35 minutes long.
Yeah, the numbers I was giving is through the CHA.
Well, and what was the numbers regularly at the heart?
So a year ago, we were probably around 170 a day, and we're at about 200 a day.
And that's our only resource usually.
And about
too.
20% of those are housed folks.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn, these numbers are really encouraging to see just the utilization that we're seeing in this program. Do you have a sense of, or is there some way that we're tracking if someone calls in, they're less likely to call in the future, or if someone calls in, they're this % are connected with resources, or how do we track the impact that these calls make on these people's lives?
I think most of my connections are one time. I mean, there's some that I probably have about, I would say probably out of these almost 300 contacts, I'd say probably about 20 other people were follow-ups, more than one call. Usually it's a one, hey, are you connected? Do you want to be connected, given resources? Sometimes they'll want to meet. I'll go meet them for coffee, or somewhere that's outside the police department where they feel comfortable, and then connect them to resources. And then some, like, speaking of like people almost being houselessness, I've been working with, it's kind of a messed up situation, but two of our older population, one that she's had squatters in her basement for a couple of years, more than that. They stopped paying like 3 years ago, so I've been helping her through the eviction process. So that's taken a lot of time too, but usually it's, I'm calling them like, hey, when I do follow-up, if it's on scene, that's usually a couple times, but to really start to track multiple, I could dig into my system and actually probably pull that out of Dr. Cloud.
Sure.
Yeah, something I can look into to pull for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Next, just the 23-hour stabilization center, if you guys want to hit this, since you guys are running the show over there.
I can talk about the 23 and then you can talk about the MTHB. All right. 23 an hour, yeah, it's been amazing. I'm over there a lot, just even if I'm not taking people over there, just checking in with the staff and see how they're doing and seeing their process. It's been cool to watch them go from like just starting it to, they're 2.5 months into it now. Like I said, they can be there 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. So it's really to, for immediate crisis. It could be from somebody that's having suicidal thoughts, somebody that's, having hallucinations, auditory or visual, or really scared, paranoia, having perceptual disturbances where they just don't know what's going on. The goal is to divert from our local hospitals and our jails. So, I mean, I've had somebody over there that's had a plan, right? But like was willing to engage with somebody and like, didn't need that hold. I mean, if you think about when I put somebody on a designee hold, the hold is only good for the ride to the hospital. That's it. Then they have to do their assessment there. So it just keeps them in the ambulance. So if I can get them to go to the stabilization center, they're still going to make a plan there. And then the counselor or therapist that's on site can determine if it's a higher need. They've had to, send somebody out. But it's been an amazing opportunity. And have you all toured it?
Before they had any, yeah.
So it's got 7 recliners. And they have it's not like I've worked in the PES at Unity, and that's just a bunch of recliners in a huge room, and you just lay there. This one's got a TV and headphones. There's board games they can play at the table. They can go outside and smoke, which actually keeps people there a lot more than you would think. They can go out back and smoke and come back in. The big thing about the stabilization center is they gotta want to go there, right? So if somebody's in crisis and is so in crisis that they don't know if they want the help, it's not that they don't want the help, then they're probably gonna go to the hospital. But if they want help and they're in the frame of mind to accept help and talk to somebody, it's an amazing opportunity.
The other side has 13 spaces for folks to stay up to 90 days. The sweet spot is about 60, that's our goal. Some folks have been there as little as 2 weeks, and our screening process is to help identify folks who have a clear pathway out or one that is relatively low barrier, because it is that short-term, like stabilize, and folks can go from our side to Clarvita's side if needed and back, and so we can support that. We have a housing navigator to help folks with their pathways out. We have a couple of case managers and a couple of like just on-site kind of peer support roles, staffed 24/7. There's a kitchen. And then we brought over one of our folks from the day center who has immediately turned it into this homey feel where it's very comfortable, it feels welcoming, because it felt pretty sterile at first. But now there's artwork, which actually was all created by a resident in permanent supportive housing in Tukwila Springs. And so the walls are covered and there's plants and there's like pantry with snacks people can grab. They've really enjoyed cooking together and learning some, or relearning, repracticing some life skills and engagement. And then our care coordination team, our Father's Heart has a care coordination team, and we assist folks in qualifying for more supportive housing options, whether that's group home living or assisted living, getting their social security set up, any disability benefits, and navigating those systems. And they're just stellar, and that has been like the game changer for most of our folks, having that team available just to come in and sit down. Community paramedic comes over there regularly and works with folks as well, and a lot of our referrals come through community partners, community paramedics, and others. So yeah, it's been great.
And it's stayed full.
Yes, there were only a couple weeks where I think we had like 1 room, 2 rooms, and one was actually being held for someone while they were elsewhere for the stay. So yeah. Yep, well used.
It's been great with us. We've had a great relationship with the people that all work down there as well. Myself or Ryan have talked to the people down there at least once a week just to keep the communication going, and it's been a great relationship with them. They call us if there's ever a problem, and quite honestly, they only call us just to check in to see how it's going, so, or what we can do or what they can do to help us. So it's great.
Yeah. Do you know, Brandy, or do you have a sense, how many of the folks who did the 23-hour stabilization and move on to more long-term in the facility, or a lot of the folks previously in 23-hour stabilization?
Like if they're in the stabilization and then move over to the shelter?
Yeah.
So that would be ideal if we could swing it that way, but
Yeah.
once we fill up those rooms, they're
Sure.
full for 30, 60, 90 days, so it hasn't been a lot of crossover.
Okay.
But if there is someone there that Clarvita has identified as a good fit, and we happen to have, we're absolutely happy to take those referrals, for
Okay.
sure. It's
Yeah.
just the flow has been a little, like, we're still
Yeah.
figuring that out.
Okay.
And I think
Yeah.
on the BHU side, we're really trying to make sure that the stabilization center side, the 23-hour side, is not utilized as a shelter.
Sure.
And more for our people in mental health crisis. I understand that house assist is a crisis too.
Which a lot of the folks that on the Clarvita side have been housed, right?
Some of them, we are seeing here recently, man, it's sad too, the rural area, some of our older population getting locked out. You think about all the prices going up, rent going up, and then on a fixed income. And most of those people, when you're 80, 90 years old, their only choice is the hospital, you know, they can't go live in a car. So we've had a couple down here to kind of give them that chance to kind of stabilize and get to the next step. But all but one of my people that have been in there have been housed. One wasn't housed. Came from the library, actually.
Okay. Next, the library. Brent said he was gonna do some river dance.
It's true, I did say that.
You want me to dance with you?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Romeo, Michelle, anyone?
Glenn needs to leave.
I gotta go take somebody to the stabilization center.
Yeah. Before I hand it over to Brent for a little bit, I just wanted to say, a lot of the success that we are having could not happen without the library. I mean, honestly, Brent, Janet, and Kelly have graciously opened up the library to help out. They have Tuesday outreach every Tuesday from 10 to 2, is that correct? 12 to 2, sorry.
Until you decide to go on.
Yes, exactly.
That's smart.
They are a dedicated warming and cooling center as well too. They have bottles of water, snacks. It's a safe haven for people as well too. I cannot prop up Brent and this team just for their graciousness of opening up the building for that. It's been amazing, so thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
That's the team.
Here we are. I'm Brent, as all of you know, and behind the mayor is Kelly Lamb. She's one of our 2 managers, and actually, she is really doing like the good work. So much of the foundation of the work we're doing has been her vision. So if you look at the services at Parole and Probation Monthly, that was a partnership she helped build. Really, this desire to have the Tuesday outreach came from our 2 managers saying it's great that we have the support, but unless we can reliably tell people when it is, how do we connect people? I think it's like 2 sides of the same coin, like the work that some of the work the library does versus Level 1 and police. What's a little bit different is we have the full range of experience of people being in the space. And that is traditional library services as well as those folks who might be in various stages of crisis, stages of home status, various stages, and we get to know them. We get to, and this is, I've taken this from my good friend Don here, we see people, we build the relationships, and then we're able to sort of refer folks on and really sort of, hey, you need to know about this. And it isn't just simply, we need help. It's like, here's what we know, what can we do? So I wanted to say that, and then specifically, I'm gonna lose my train. Let's see what's next.
To add to that too, is with Trista coming on too, is one of the things that Brent has asked for, and we're absolutely on board with, is probably have Trista down there at least 1 day a week dedicated to that. Don't kind of know what day that is going to be. We're going to need to probably feel that out. What is the best fit? She won't be working Tuesday during the outreach day, but during the rest of the week where she can go down and help out the team and when other people come in as well too. So that's just another benefit for having another person on board as well too. So
something you said about your officers is something I know is true for library as well. It's when we don't have all the tools, like in the moments of crisis. So really having other folks help us is just so important. So that's why this whole team helps. And I know it's hard for folks maybe who are watching this table. You all know, you've heard me go on and on and on about this. But there is something really special about sort of the partnership that we've built. And it's hard for people looking in, like library, police working closely together. Folks are like, what is happening? But it's the good example that Kelly brought to me when we were preparing for this presentation of like, how does the library, like what's an example of like a through line, right? Here's one example. You know, when it is below freezing, Father's Heart opens up the overnight shelters. And we get to know folks. So like we're putting up signs. We're making sure that our folks that we know may need that understand what's available. Mm-hmm. You also know that we have by referral only overnight housing here on those cold nights as well. Here's an example of like library coming in. Like as Kelly was telling one of our regular folks that probably many people around this table would know. Hey, you know, the shelters are opening up tonight. Are you going to be able to get there? And that person was like, I don't think I can. I think I'm excluded from there. And Kelly was like, well, let's actually see if that's actually what's happening. Mm-hmm. And she made a contact. I don't know, was it to you or was it to
Rocio? Oh, yep.
And said like, hey, this is this person, and like it's cold. Is he on the list of not? Oh no, he's fine. by the way, he hangs out in Milwaukee. We can write referral right now. He doesn't need to
Yes.
come to Oregon City.
Yes.
He can go directly 3 blocks away and house the 911 spot. So I think that's sort of where we've gotten to, but
Yeah.
think about 3 years ago and it would have been a cluster to
Yeah.
make those things happen. So anyway, lots of words.
Yeah.
All right, let's see, what did we put on this slide?
Put a lot for you.
Thank you. So, yeah, I think that's what we really get to know folks, and we are connecting directly with staff. We're not social workers, but we build relationships. And it isn't like a police call where you're going out and folks are, but sometimes we're calling our partners, and sometimes it is that. You heard about the extended hours for cooling, but I really do think the library is a refuge for many people. And it is no different for the folks who are in crisis or the folks who don't have homes. It is a place that they can be, and they're going to find that respect. And from our perspective, everyone gets to be there as long as we're able to find that balance and everyone can be safe together. And that's what we strive to do. And really, these sort of connections and referrals, that is really not a new service. The libraries have always connected people to information. It's just a different kind of information, or a new sort of information. So let's see what's next. Oh, boy.
Let's read that.
These are his stats for this year as well too, and like we talked about earlier, you can tell that his numbers are going up. You talk about PITS reports, so from last year of 40, they got up to 72 reports that have helped. Water bottles given out, 884 this last year alone, 1,779.
So more than double.
Yeah.
And when we talk about PITS, that is our system of doing two things. One, it's a way to track behavioral incidents by a person. So we can see if there's a pattern. We can sort of do sort of if we need to exclude someone after many sort of bad behaviors, it sort of gives us that information. It also, we also sometimes get unsolicited sort of thoughts. Hey, Brandy, oh, you actually should be very careful with this person.
Yep.
So there's a lot of that stuff that we're able to sort of share that's been very, very helpful.
What does PITS stand for?
It stands for the Patron Incident Tracking Software. It is a software that libraries use. It was created in San Francisco where actually the library and police at the county level all work together. And now libraries sort of use it throughout. We're using it a little bit differently here, go figure. Because I look at it as its biggest strength is actually the communication piece. So anytime we have an incident, like something happens, there's a medical emergency, there's a behavioral or a mental health crisis, we're tracking that. All of our city leadership and our police leadership and level one, they get a summary of what happens. So that's the one piece, so everyone kind of knows what's going on. And secondly, we also use it as a way to sort of do referrals. So sometimes it's not actually an incident. It's just like, hey, there is a person here, they sort of shared this story, we want you to know this person might need services. And those things have prompted in various ways of directly connecting people to things.
Yeah.
That's a long way to say. Patron incident tracking.
Oh, I was gonna do a follow-up. But you jumped me, that's okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
It really helps us too, because when we're working with folks and doing case management or housing navigation and they come up somewhere in the system, or we haven't located them or heard about them, when we can put the word out and say, hey, if anybody, and this goes to PD too, hey, we're looking for so-and-so, they're up on the housing list, or they have a check-in or whatever, and we don't always have to tell them what it is, but hey, we're looking for this person. That collaboration has been a game changer to help us locate the person, to get them whatever it is that they're needing to do, whether it's a court date or a check-in with parole and probation. So like, I'm kind of jumping ahead.
Go for it.
But served at parole and probation, 300
Yeah.
in the last year. That is outstanding. That means folks are checking in and staying in compliance, which is preventing additional barriers for housing and other next steps. And it's really great to be able to say, hey, Dawn, have you checked in with your probation officer lately? You don't even have to leave Milwaukie because we're literally standing outside right here. Can you go check in with them on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever day it is? And Dawn's like, oh, yeah, I can do that. Like, I'm familiar with the library. I know where that's at. People love going to those appointments, and I don't know that people generally love going to their probation or parole check-ins, but they really do at the library.
Yeah.
And is that once a,
It
is
is.
that once a month or? Okay.
It's once a month in our community room. In fact, one time we let it go on when we had closed the library, because like, I guess people are coming. And we had a staff meeting, we were like, we trust you. I mean, they're carrying guns, it's probably. But I think it's another good example. It is, I would say this is a hard one to explain to people. You just say, parole and probation's coming to the library. Why do you care? Why do you want to know? Well, again, people being able to come to a safe place and connect and like make sure they're going in a direction will help everyone. But beyond that, there are also services, it's not just parole and probation. We have many services that are in that room to make sure the folks who are checking in are able to connect. And that is really what we're all trying to do, like make sure people know what's available and they're connected. Yeah.
And some of the services are like Paracrete, DHS, just to be able to like cover and at least make initial contacts or referrals for people.
So I know down in Oregon City, they do this monthly Clackamas Workforce Partnership, and they do this expungement clinic and helping people get their IDs back and stuff. Are you guys sending people to that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As much as we can.
Yeah.
I think that is it.
Um,
So, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was asked by a constituent that, was approached by someone on the street who was trying to find some help, and she didn't have a phone. And so this constituent reached out to me and says, are there any pay phones around? I said, I doubt it. And so I was asking Brent about this and some other questions about referrals and that kind of thing. And this may sound small compared to the bigger issue, but tell them what you got.
We have an old-fashioned block phone that we can plug into any room, and it gives people the ability to make like a private call. It works on cell technology, but it's actually, it turns a cell phone into like an old-fashioned analog phone, and we can book them into one of our rooms, so when they need to have those private conversations, or maybe heated conversations, we can give them that dignity and that privacy to like, and it's a thing that's been used. And I know people looked at me funny when I said, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And it's working.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have heard of some towns actually putting some payphones back in.
Yeah, I mean,
It's complicated to do, I guess.
well, but there are ways, right? It's sort of like, this is like one of the new technology ways to sort of meet that need. I believe it's West Lynn. I think they have a public phone like in their library lobby, but it's not like a pay phone, but it really is sort of an accessible phone. And even folks who do have phones, like this is a problem. The service, phones get lost, they get stolen. Like having a phone is such the minimum.
Yep, and the charging and all of that. One thing we didn't cover that came to mind is the monthly Milwaukie Houseless meeting that Glenn hosts over at the PD. So library staff come, outreach, other community partners. It's not just Level 1 Milwaukie and library staff. There's folks from NIA and folks from Clackamas Service Center, North Clackamas School District. I'm trying to think who else.
Is it the county?
Oh, Bill Stewart, Deputy DA, and his soon-to-be replacement attend. I don't know, there's a handful of other folks. So every month we're gathering in person and we do updates, so program updates around the table, but then we also take time to case conference some of the folks that we're all interacting with. So it's been really, really helpful just to have that dedicated hour or so to know that we're gonna be in person, and we all just, it's the same agenda every time, so we know what the routine is, and it's been great.
Brandy, this is, and all of you, this is a great presentation. But the thing that kind of strikes me about this is this required a lot of, I guess I'll call it tribal knowledge, localized knowledge and networking to put together.
And trust.
And trust, yeah, agreed. And connecting the dots and everything like that, which I think is good. You figured it out, But it's just kind of striking to me that, I guess, like, why isn't there a template somewhere that is easier for people to follow? I don't know. And so that kind of gets me to the other question about, like, there's these hotlines, statewide hotlines. Is it 988 or
211, 988,
What is your opinion of those? Because they're statewide.
you know where those 211 calls go?
Tell me. Is that right?
Oh, do they? Yeah, they make referrals to us.
So they gotta say, you need to call Brandy, or let me transfer you to Brandy.
It's sort of like a Rolodex. And we're like, oh, what area are you in? Oh, you're in the Milwaukie area, you're in the Oregon City area. Well, you can try calling Father's Heart, you can call Love One, you can call, here's the service providers. And then it's on us, the service providers, to keep our information, our contact information up to date with them. So every couple of months, we get an email from 211, and they're like, hey, go in and check and make sure this is all accurate and what services you provide are up to date. So that's, the 988 is the mental health.
Crisis line.
Yes, the crisis line. And 211 is more the information, how do you connect to services. So yes, it's okay, but I think to your point, Councilor Massey, it's the relationship piece. And that's where the template fails, is if you don't have the relationships behind them.
Yeah.
Because like Love One's mission, when we do outreach and engagement and laundry events in communities, we get to know the community, and then we tailor those things to the community. So Malala's event looks very different than a Milwaukie event.
Yeah.
And Milwaukie looks even different than Oregon City. Our relationship with OCPD is much different than Milwaukie PD. It's positive, but it's not the level of like, I can go in and go sit with Greg, right? And be like, hey, this is an issue, how are we gonna do this?
Greg loves that.
He means that with all of the sincerity. We share it.
That's
But I also think the reason it isn't template, it's really, and I mentioned trust specifically because if you're gonna really collaborate, you have to let go of control and see where this thing goes.
That's a good point.
And like, libraries are not particularly great about like letting go of control of their room and saying, here, take it. Or like when we start dancing around these questions of like, what does privacy look like when we're collaborators? It's very thorny, and you have to like trust people in ways that I don't think we are necessarily set up to do.
Our systemization of things hasn't done a great job of allowing for that, where with Milwaukie, it's like you come up with an idea and everyone's like, hey, how can we collaborate? What does that look like? What is our collective end goal?
We don't really start it now. We're like, how?
Right, how do we do this? Or, hey, this is what we're noticing. What are we gonna do about it?
Or so often, it is the question, like how, like, when we're talking about people that we know, it's like, what do we do? And we've had these conversations, and I've had it with PD too, like, where we're really just having the conversation, what do we need to do next?
Yeah.
So it's awesome. This is a great place to be.
And we're working on that in other areas. I have
Good.
plans. I have plans.
We want Randy to take over the world.
It's gonna be great.
Hands together, yes.
Yes, we have some plans, and now that we have some actual, like, concrete data behind and you talk about these things. Like, this is how it's working, and this is why it's working.
Yeah, I don't have questions. I just want to say it's impressive, the work that's being done all across the board. It was clearly, Glenn was a great investment. And, if this is what you guys all did with just one Glenn, we're about to get another one, and some more officers, so, and some help in your department. So those numbers I can see them going up and people getting connected to resources, but going down and how many people come back or how many people continue to need them. So you just need the county to step up a little more.
We're recorded, right?
Yes, we are. We are on the record.
And I don't know, I would just add to being able to access the officers and their engagement and investment in this community is also stands out significantly, because I can go to any of them or they'll be like, hey, do you have a minute? I'm wondering about X, Y, or Z, but just leading with curiosity and that humility of like, how can we help this person? Because I'd love to not arrest them again, and like that's huge.
Well,
that should never be.
What we've really learned is this works and it helps. And like I said before, it's a different way of policing. It was either for us, unfortunately, we have to make an arrest, or we have to leave them where they're at and not offer them some stuff because our hands are tied. But coming on board and getting input from everybody here has just been a help, and officers are excited about it because it helps them. It helps reduce their caseload as well too, and it's just been a great asset.
So are there, I take it from everything people have said that there are stories of someone who was a frequent arrestee 5 years ago or whatever, who's kind of been helped to find a path where they're no longer being called for.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always the one person that you get to help, and you might not have contact with them for months at a time. I mean, the biggest one probably I can think of, a person named Donald Jose, and he was a houseless person when I started here back in 2002. And he's in housing and finally got some.
I think he was moved into assisted living.
Yeah. And just the success story from him alone, where our hands were tied. I mean, he was somebody who we would make multiple arrests on because we had no other option. We would put a police officer hold on him to get him some help. But again, like Glenn said, the holds only get to get to hospital. Once they talk to a doctor, they're out. And now that we have this ability with the teams that we've put together, slowly, it took a while. It took a long time with Donald, but he's finally getting this help that he needed, and it's been amazing for him.
We have folks who come at opening and stay until closing, and some of those folks we get to know, and I can think, maybe including this person, I can think of 3 off the top of my head that have at least gone through that process of being with us all day and finding housing. Now, again, we could find those magical stories, and finding housing doesn't mean that they're not going to experience other problems in the future.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if my library director friends in another city have everyone's phone number, and we're all texting. It isn't someone's in trouble. If we find a person that we don't know yet on our sidewalk, I can sort of give the message hey, I don't know if this person needs help, but I just need you to know there's a new person, and depending on the need, it could be PD, it could be loved one, it could be day of the week.
Could be all of us together.
Correct.
That happens.
It does. But it's really a really good approach here, because what I see over and over, it's not you're in trouble, you don't belong here, you need to move on. What I see over and over from our police is who are you? How are you? What do you need? And then we go from there.
So our new pilot is out today. Well, I got it today at my house. It's out this week. And there it is, yes. And there's a piece in there about the opening of Hillside, the new, the rest of
I got it on the
Hillside.
third.
I know the police department has been in contact with them. Is Love One have any role at Hillside?
We do not. Yeah.
We meet with them at least once a month for now. Hasn't been a lot of movement interaction. I know they're slowly filling up some spots in there too, but it's been quiet, and they're really doing a really good job over there. So it's been good so far.
And you talked about having everyone's phone number. I know from my time, I was an advocate for OCBH in a past life, and they talked a lot about how in voluntary clinics, it's so hard to get all of the touches you need to convince someone that they should seek help. And I just real kudos to the two of you and to you, Brandy, but that's, our city, I think, needs to step up to meet the moment, and the fact that you're in your own capacities working so hard to integrate with the services that Brandy provides, it just really, it's what we hear from our constituents. It's the direction that we should be going. It's, I think, the way that we can morally meet this moment, and I'm really, really grateful to have the leadership of you two in the city and all the work you spend as well, Brandy.
It's fun. I mean, it's hard. They're hard to explain. It's also the right thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the stars align sometimes, and you hear the angels singing, and you're like, oh my God, it worked.
She glossed over it, but the fact that Love One have city badges, the fact that Don can come to the library if he needs to meet someone, even if library folks aren't there. These are it isn't just helpful, it's like essential to provide those tools. And like,
Yeah.
there is a time, I think that would have been impossible to do.
That's true. I love it because the PD is really quiet and I can actually get some work done and not get interrupted. Or my office? Yes, but also if I'm in the hallways, I'm seeing the officers and we're checking in. You know, it's just like a normal thing.
May I have just one question? Well, I mean, I have a lot of questions, but I know how to find you.
You do. We collaborated recently on an individual.
We
Yes.
sure did, yeah. And so that's, in part of my question is that I have the fortune of spending a lot of time downtown overnight and on the weekends when a lot of outreach services are not available to folks. And I know that I'm not the only business owner that is connected to downtown in those off hours. So what sort of collaborations can we build with our business community so that they have information to refer people to the right resources, to connect with, Glenn in like an off hours report or something like that, that we can also help kind of wrap around our unhoused neighbors, because it's the middle of the night, a lot of crisis happens in the middle of the night. And I'd love to be able to provide more resource for folks that find themselves and their businesses connected in that moment, as like the only place for someone to get warm, or the only place where someone can get a change of clothes, or things kind of along those lines. How can we make that connection and build those relationships?
I have like 200 ideas going through my head right now, but then also a couple things that we're working on. Can we set a time to sit down and like brainstorm, whiteboard some
I
ideas?
would love that.
Yeah.
I'd really like that.
Okay. Yes. And the sooner the better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that resonates with me because we also don't have service support 7 days a week at the library, which is why we're so happy to have additional support coming on board. But like for us, it's very clear, like we know if we have no one else, like it is going to be our colleagues at PD. And I do really trust, I've seen them, they do good work and right?
Yeah.
And.
It's challenging though sometimes for police, and they don't want to talk to a uniformed officer, and I
Yeah.
totally understand that. I mean, that's just the reality of what it is, and this is what is making this so successful, especially parole probation going over there on Tuesdays. It's a safer place for them to go and meet and talk and feel secure, like they're not going to jail and stuff.
Right.
And we're always open for you to call us late at night too, and we'd be open to getting their names to refer them to Glenn and stuff like that, to see what they're looking for as well too. That can be a challenge sometimes if they're not willing to talk to us. But it's always worth a shot. It's always worth us coming down and talking. So, and you can do it with Brandy as well too.
Several of the instances
Absolutely.
that I've run into lately have been folks that are at the point of escalation where they're not in a place to talk about services quite yet, which puts us, and that's fine, in a position of de-escalating sometimes and saying,
This could be
Yep.
a good
Absolutely.
thing for an officer to come to offer up the 23-hour center as well too.
Right.
And so
But
that's
they-
something that we can
Yeah.
offer them too, and they have to be willing to go. They want to do that, but that's something that we can get them there. It's so close to downtown. It's a 2-minute car ride.
I guess I have a library hat thing, and I was here the night the business survey results were here, and I do think, having talked with some of our partners on the street, I think there really is interest in probably some training, like how do we de-escalate, and I think there may be other ways that all of us could sort of create that space. We haven't yet in that way.
I mean, I have found myself needing to make new policies for our team and our customers on the fly. When someone has a moment of crisis and they're right next to our front window, we have a policy to get everyone away from that front window and in a space where they feel safe, and also the person escalating feels safe, so they don't feel like they're in a fishbowl and people are staring at them from inside a store. And I really appreciate there have been instances, one instance in particular where I did call non-emergency, because I knew that officers were trained to respond with a trauma-informed response. And I probably wouldn't have called in other jurisdictions. But having built this partnership between council and community and MPD has been a real benefit. And so I think that is something that needs to be replicated across other jurisdictions. There is a culture shift. I know that in that phone call, I could tell the person, when someone responds, they need to know this and this and this about this individual. They need to come in a very calm, very, I was able to tell them what I needed as a business owner and know that they would really get it. And they absolutely came in a very unassuming way. They provided resources, they took the time, they stood back, the person didn't feel cornered. Things went up and down and up and down, and they surfed it with him, in a way that I think made everybody, including our employees, feel safer. So I just really want to appreciate that. It takes a lot to have that presence of mind, and that in this situation, they also had to reach out to, interpreters by phone. And because as someone gets more stressed out, they're going to revert to their native language. And, the officers pivoted immediately with like, hey, I know that we're having a communication breakdown, and that's on us to get more services to you right now. Let's see who we can call. They did a really, really good job, and I really appreciate it. I think that if we're able to build more connections with the businesses so that they feel like in a moment of crisis or trauma where they're seeing something happen, they have the tools to respond and make their employees feel safe, make customers feel safe, make community members feel safe. I think that will really go a long way in building that relationship with Main Street too. And I know that across the whole city, but I think Main Street experiences a lot of it because of the concentration of services and the transportation options that folks have. It's different, like I am seeing a lot more presence of individuals that I haven't seen. New people are coming in, and they're used to dealing with law enforcement in a different way. They're used to dealing with businesses in a different way, the libraries in a different way. So it's almost like, we have to be a different sort of welcome pack, as new folks.
Well, I love that idea of collaboration with the businesses, and I will just add, it's not that kind of training, but the library is going to be hosting Clackamas County to do overdose training, naloxone training, and then also a suicide prevention training. So watch for details on that.
May 25th and June 18th.
Okay.
I had a call with County Clerk McMullen yesterday because she sends some of her staff out to help folks at our rural events sign up for voting. And there was an interaction that her staff had with a community member who came in
that did not go well, and so she and I were debriefing about that because my staff didn't know about it. And
so what came out was her staff,
one staff
and Father's Heart staff, we go through a lot of training, mental health first aid, de-escalation, there's a whole long list. Right, and so I think that could be something that we could talk about for the downtown business owners. And then I've been working with the head of DOCA in Oregon City for the Main Street businesses, because the transit center's down there too, so a little bit similar. And Juliana and I actually we're flip-flopping. I'm going to join the DOCA board, and she's going to join Love One. Both of us as representatives, not as voting members. But I think we could talk about that too for downtown Milwaukie and what that looks like to just bring all those pieces together, but then also access some of those trainings.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
yeah, here you go. Let's talk. I love this.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. We do have TriMet waiting outside, so.
Wait, we're not on time?
You started late. Thanks you guys for having us. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and grab one.
And Mango isn't joining us either.
No, Mango went home with our shift change.
Those meetings
But
are
given that
boring.
Rita was here, I'm thinking that was a good thing. It's a good thing. She really does, but given that I was
Good to see you too. Nice to see you. Always good to see you. How are you?
I was just thinking about it actually, like as Rita was leaving here.
Love it. Everything we ask everyone, yes, how can we help?
Put our speakers at that end of the table.
Duplicate yourselves another just laid it out next to each
I have to array two rows.
It's all like, lines of the sheriff's department.
Let me see. Yes. So it's three of them.
I have some relationships with the sheriff's department, and I just hired the former undersheriff, our budget and the jail as my CFO. He's a camera award.
That's awesome.
She is
These are the names I got.
stellar.
Really?
Yeah, he's right.
Oh, I cannot say enough good things.
Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
So let's talk
Yeah, we
about
will. Yes, we will. Yes.
you. How are you?
How are you doing? Good. I'm John. Adam, nice to meet you.
They're like TriMet meetings?
Oh gosh, she's done her fair share of public meetings.
Good to see you too. Good.
I should have texted Eli on my way over here and been like, hang out with Will.
I would say reference that, but we were here till 9:30 tonight, so.
Okay.
Another time. Right off the orange line. That's cool.
No, another time.
Another time.
Pull
Deal.
chairs behind to the, yeah, saying you need to.
I have a perfect baby holding location right here.
You're just offering.
Just
She's really good. She really loves Sam, so at some point she may just start like talking to Sam in the meeting. It's a little out of control sometimes.
That's funny.
Like, wait for public comment.
She's like, I don't need to wait.
So I want to thank our friends at TriMet for joining us here. We haven't had TriMet at one of our meetings in a few years, and often it's only been, I don't want to say only, often it's been the government affairs team, so we're really honored today to have the general director here, as well as our elected official.
Appointed.
Appointed, that's right.
Don't overstate.
Appointed representative. So Tyler Frisbee represents Milwaukie and most or all of Southeast Portland.
Basically all of Southeast Portland, yeah.
And then the rest of Clackamas County has a different representative. So we're kind of carved out of Clackamas County, but, and then I'll let Sam introduce whoever else he wants to introduce his whole team.
First, good evening, Mayor Beatty and Council President Anderson, members of the Milwaukee City Council. I am Sam Basu. I'm the General Manager of TriMet. I've been with TriMet 6 years. Prior to that, I served in Missouri, Kansas City, and then before that in Seattle. So I've been in transit for just about 35 years at 4 different public agencies. Joining us tonight is J.C. Bonetta here. He's our Chief Public Affairs Officer, and then Grant O'Connell to the right of me. He's our Manager of Service Planning and Development. And then John Serra, he's our Local Government Affairs Manager. And then Tyler Frisbee is our TriMet Board member representing Milwaukie.
T4.
And then over in the audience is Bruce Ramos, who is my Executive Assistant with TriMet. So I just want to thank you all for inviting us out here tonight to really discuss the budget and how we're working to address our deficit. One of our most challenging parts of this conversation is our proposal to cut service. One of the things I wanted to say, I did not move here to Portland to cut service at all, period, as the organization. And one of the things that really hurts me to my core is that we're in front of you talking about cutting service. We announced these proposed cuts on January 5th, and we spent the last few months speaking to all of our partners around the region to get feedback and really find the best pathway forward. So tonight, Grant O'Connell will be discussing the proposed cuts. But first, I'd like to hand this off to J.C. Panetta to discuss TriMet's budget and then how we got here.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, and thank you all for having us here. We really appreciate it. I think actually the last time we were here, we were talking about the Orange Line opening up. So it has been.
I think you've been here since then.
I mean, our government affairs folks have, but anyway.
Full-fledged team.
Full-fledged team.
That was a much happier time.
What I want to do, Grant, here you go. What I want to do is kind of go and set the stage for why we're doing the cut. So I'll have a couple of introductory slides for you, just to show you where we're at, talk about some of the outreach that we've done, and then Grant will jump into where we're at with some of the service cuts. So just make sure we have slides that go along. So kind of as you can imagine, where we're at today with TriMet, we're seeing record layoffs across the region. There is, you probably know this here in Milwaukie, record vacancy rates, and it continues to rise as well. We're seeing a high teleworking rate. If you don't know this, Oregon is number 2 in the nation for teleworking. So a lot of people love to come to our great state. They might be working somewhere else but living and loving it here. And then you've also seen just the elevated concern around public safety. So these are some of the conditions that we find ourselves at TriMet in. When we start to think about TriMet itself, our ridership is holding steady. We're at about 70% of pre-pandemic ridership ballpark, which means it's about 1.2 million rides per week. And we have seen it continually tick up. We do see people coming back, starting to kind of see a plateau. One of the things that you all should know is that 35% of our riders are transit dependent. That means that they depend on TriMet to get to where they need to go. That's important because one of the things that we saw during the pandemic was the number of people who needed our services started to grow, and it has continued to grow. So it's something that we are watching very closely. And the reason why we know it's growing is because we are seeing record enrollments in our low-income fare program. HB 2017 created a low-income fare program for us. We're seeing not only record enrollment, but record use of that program. So we know that a lot of people who use our service need our service. Something that you'll probably be hearing more about in the coming weeks is our payroll taxes are down. I'm sure that you guys are probably seeing that at a city level. Some of the taxes that you are encountering are down. All 4 of our revenue sources are down. And so that's one other thing that we are working to deal with. And then as you can imagine, with the loss of ridership, our fare revenue is down. That's the revenue that we collect at the fare box. And that all started as the chart behind me kind of shows our ridership. As we all were sent home, our ridership plummeted, so did our fare revenue. And so we're still working. That was about $60 million annually that we're still trying to recover from. You, with the city, I'm sure that you're seeing this, our inflation, our costs have grown 56% since 2019. That's done, to a number of different reasons. Labor, obviously, your electrical rates have gone up, so have ours, things like that. And so we've really seen our costs increase. But we've also made some serious investments in the first and foremost, safety and security. You all have seen what has happened on our streets in our community. What we always say, what happens in our community happens on TriMet, because we're a moving sidewalk. And so for us, we have invested record amounts in safety and security, and we're making a lot of headway because we just couldn't wait for various jurisdictions to fill the gap. So we've invested in safety and security, cleaning, and then Grant and his team really did a lot of good work. As we were coming out of the pandemic, we also saw demographics and people have shifted where they lived, right? And so Grant and his team really did a great job at tweaking our network, tweaking what we already had, and figuring out where to put our service. And so we saw a lot, and we invested in that as well. And then as you can imagine, which I'm sure that you might be facing, we're facing a $700 million backlog of just state of good repair projects that we need to do. A lot of our system is getting older. Our original MAX line is over 40 years old. Our bus garages need some upkeep. And so we continue to monitor that. So where does that leave us? Right now, last summer on July 23rd, we announced to everyone, we are facing a roughly $300 million structural deficit that we need to solve for. And so Sam, when good government
has a imbalance of expenses and revenues. We try to solve the problem within 3 years, and Sam has said we're going to do that. Our goal is by July 1, 2028 to balance our budget by $300 million. How are we going to get there? And these are all about numbers because just our numbers are changing with updated forecasts and stuff like that. Administrative cuts, at least $93 million. Revenue, we are hoping to raise a minimum of $48 million. And I'll talk more about that. And then service, cutting at least a minimum of 10%. And again, Grant will go through some of that, but that's around $159 million. I would just note that if we don't raise additional revenue, that there will be more cuts to come. So just want to point that out. We're doing a lot of internal work. One of the things that we heard from lawmakers when we were down there asking for an increase in the STIF was get your house in order before you start coming and asking us for money. And we are doing, trust me when I say we are doing that. We spent 6 hours today just going through our next round of cuts. We're looking at efficiency. So far, we've reduced our spending by $150 million. Efficiencies, discretionary spending. We've canceled future bus service increases. And we had our first round of layoffs last fall. Another round is coming this year. So more cuts, more layoffs are coming as we work to resize TriMet so that our expenses and our revenues are in order. We have taken some external actions. We have increased our fares. We've heard from some lawmakers, make sure that people have some skin in the game, right? So we did increase fares in January 2024. We have been working with lawmakers, crazy path last year with the transportation package, if you were following it. The craziness continues, but really working with them, I think that we have done a good job of proving our case. We have to figure out next steps, and so that's where we're at right now. We had some service changes November 30th, in which we're kind of calling trimming, so to speak, in November, and just a couple of days ago, March 1st, Grant's going to talk about those that are happening on August 23rd. So just wanted to let you know, we have done a lot of outreach. We have been listening to folks like you, community members all across this region. So last fall, we actually went out and we had a number of every communication aspect that we have at our fingertips, open houses, you name it. Grant was at many of them trying to explain what we were looking for. And we asked people to rank 9 different areas, like should the bus show up less, or should we reduce our coverage? Different areas that we asked the community to weigh in on where we should focus the first rounds. And we got a lot of feedback. So from then, again, all these different outreach opportunities, we received about 5,000 responses to a survey, so a really good turnout. And that all helped inform Grant and team of how and what to put into this proposal. I think we now move on to our service plan.
Thanks again. I'll share my appreciation for having us here, and thanks for Grant O'Connell, manager of planning. So we have a board adopted, we've worked through our wonderful board members to develop some guidelines that as we think about making changes to service, and this slide just kind of touches on all of the key points of our guidelines as we think about service. So I won't go through this, but equity, demand, productivity, connections, and growth, all of those topics are important to us as we think about the prospect of changing our service and are top of mind as we look at this. As JC kind of alluded to, we internally developed a large menu of things that we could imagine possibly doing. And that outreach that JC was speaking about and that survey was designed to speak to those different ideas in sort of abstract form. Would you be willing to have a bus come a little less often? Do you mind if it doesn't come at night? That sort of thing. When we talk to folks about our service, because everybody's going to say, don't cut my line. But when we talk to folks about it in more abstract form, we're able to get more meaningful input on how we might imagine making some changes. So this service cuts considered column is sort of a look behind the scenes of what all of those things that the survey mapped to. So where it says FS bus, that's our frequent service. So, you know, we have, you know, between 15 and 20 bus lines that come about every 15 minutes or better. Frequent, so FS bus, that means that's talking about those lines. We could look at dropping that from of every 15 minutes back to every 17 and a half. So for example, that was one of our menu items of things that we considered. Limiting the hours of frequent service to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., doing so on Max and Bus, etc. I think you kind of get the idea, hopefully, but please ask questions if it's not making sense. But this was our attempt at a matrix to crosswalk all our big menu of things that we could possibly do, noting first and foremost, how much does it save, but also considering the ridership. The degree of impact is more or less how long would that person have to wait? Is it just 2.5 minutes, or would the bus not even come at all? So that's degree of impact. But most importantly, second most after cost was what the public said. So we really wanted to look at that first and fourth column so that we were rooting ourselves in what saves the most and what does the public want us to do. So this is a distillation now, that same matrix, but all of the things that we didn't put in the January 5th proposal. So what you saw go out to the public on January 5th is represented here in this matrix. We did find the Max Green Line to be an attractive option because Max is expensive to operate. And so it does save quite a bit, and survey results did seem to indicate that would be palatable for the folks. So network.
Do you want to clarify what we talked about?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah.
We're not cutting the whole green line.
No. Having it, so today, it operates from Clackamas Town Center up to Gateway at 99th Avenue, basically mirrors I-205, and then comes in towards Portland on the Banfield, and then turns south to PSU. And along the Banfield stretch from I-205 into downtown Portland, there are 3 Max lines, all that do that. And so having the Green Line just operate between Clackamas Town Center and Gateway, and requiring a transfer where there's 2 other lines, with the combination of those 2 means a train would be coming every 7.5 minutes. So hopefully that's fairly palatable. But the other key factor is, and we'll see this later on, is that, well, let's just jump to that. The Green Line, it's hard at this scale maybe to see it, what we're looking at here, but notice along I-205, the Green Line segments, at all but one, there is also a bus line that goes not only, you know, into town, but through past PSU. And so in many cases, where somebody may be a Green Line rider today, they may find that their alternative is not to stay on the Green Line and have to transfer, but rather take the bus that's already at that station and it's likely going the same place. And with one small change that we'll talk about here in Milwaukie, the 34 right out here goes up to the Tacoma Park and Ride, then turns east and goes out to Clackamas Town Center. Well, at Tacoma Park and Ride, we have line 40. And so we're proposing to essentially give the eastern segment that runs on Linwood, you know, Clackamas County, and you all have done a great job of really improving that streetscape. Linwood's looking wonderful, and I think it's going to improve ridership. But that segment of the 34 could be given to the 40 essentially, and that creates yet another 1-seat ride from Clackamas Town Center on into PSU and downtown.
I was going to maybe a little more as you were talking about.
Yeah, I kind of jumped right into this slide. But any questions on the Green Line proposal?
So the survey results that said cut first, do you have an idea of that breakdown? How many of the survey respondents were primarily transit users or primarily use the Green Line or live in Clackamas County? And then conversely, do you think that there was an influx of community input that didn't like the Green Line in the first place and flooded the survey?
Great questions. We required the zip code of every survey respondent, and there was not any difference in geographic breakdown. So it's a valid question to say, well, maybe the folks who don't ride the Green Line took that and checked yes. But survey results isolated to zip codes directly around the Green Line still showed similar results, that this was something that folks could tolerate in consideration of all the other things that we were looking at.
And do you know that those survey respondents primarily use transit?
We did have ridership information, and so people were asked to select how often do I ride, and so it's of course as self-reported, but yes, and so there was also not any differences there as well. That was still among the top things that was.
So in your analysis, you cross-tabbed between those respondents and the frequency of ridership, and you found that there was like, these are people who are using the Green Line actively.
Yes.
Sure. And
We can't say that they use the Green Line, we can say that they use transit and live along the Green Line.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Because of their zip code and then
self-reported zip code
Yes.
and ridership.
Yes.
Good clarification.
that is a great question. The survey was not scientific, so please understand it was not scientific, nor was it meant to be scientific. It was just to get feedback around the various questions. However, our research people did dig into exactly what you just said to see if there were any anomalies. Did someone stuff the ballot box, so to speak? And we found no instances of that because we have the identifying like zip codes and stuff like that. So we were very careful with that.
Yeah, the IP addresses.
And IP addresses as well.
As another email inbox that gets a lot of feedback about these cuts. Clearly, no one is happy. No one, including all of us, is happy about it. There's none of these that we would, well, actually, it doesn't. There are a few that are cleaning up routes that actually, and I think this little example is actually an example of one where it's going to end up being better service for people. But 99% of these are things that we do not want to do. And so everyone's feedback is, I don't love this, and that's true. But the question is, what is going to cause the least harm? And that's the question that we're looking at here. That's what Grant's work was about. And I will just say, based on the feedback that has come in, again, not scientific, through my email inbox, I think the Green Line is one of our things. The change that we're making on the Green Line causes less harm than what the other options would have been when we look at saving that amount of money.
And then in the survey response, what percentage of students were engaged through the survey?
Don't have that figure out.
Yeah, we can get it right
and get that for you.
So you do, like, your survey did receive feedback from folks that were under 18?
Well, and we also held an open house at PSU.
And I worked directly with the PSU staff to ensure that they had all of the survey materials and they were getting that to their students and staff also.
It went out in student newsletters and staff newsletters.
At a college level, right? For PSU?
At PSU specifically.
But what about students that are high school students?
If they're signed up on the TriMet mailing list, then they got the information. But we, they don't have school, we can't, the schools don't get out.
We also posted information about how to fill out the survey at all of our stops and stations that have the digital readouts. So for students, for a lot of students, I would assume that they are seeing those. And we inundated our system with them during the survey period.
So if they were using the MAX, the Green Line, there are huge QR codes on all the reader signs on station platforms that would say, service changes, whatever, take our survey. So it's a QR code, they'd snap it with their phone and take it.
And the bus stops that have it.
And bus stops too, yeah.
Interface too.
And we mailed out a notice to everyone within a quarter mile of a bus stop or station.
253,000. Talk about a mail,
And it
the mail
probably
post
also
up.
went out to students that have youth pass, right?
I would have to see, we don't have, I wish we did, but because of privacy concerns, we don't have their email nor their home address because those youth passes are distributed via the schools. So,
Okay. And apologies, I know I'm taking a little bit more space here, but were those schools engaged in the outreach? Like the schools were able to distribute survey information?
the schools were notified, the schools, if they were on affected line, were contacted one way or another, whether it was with our information, whether we reached out to them. Some schools we actually engaged with because there were some of our routes actually, our buses are their primary routes to school.
Yeah,
So,
okay. I would be super interested to hear more at some point about the engagement with Milwaukie High School. What that looked like, given that there are so many students that would be affected by transit changes in this North Clackamas area. Thank you.
yeah, thank you for the questions.
I think particularly with students, it's important to remember it's a tough line to walk between privacy.
Yes.
And engagement. And I think that's something, you know, my kids' elementary school is right on the bus line. But I appreciate that TriMet was not trying to contact us. So it's a challenge, as you can imagine.
Sure, yeah, I completely understand it. It's also, I mean, arguably, this is the next generation of ridership.
Yep.
So they should they should be involved in at least the opportunities to fill out, information about future changes.
Keep going, Grant.
Yeah. So on, I kind of covered a little bit beyond the city, but, there's connections to groceries and otherwise. Line 32 out in Oak Grove, Clackamas County operates on Oatfield Road. We're proposing to combine that with line 34. So where 34 here heads south, it goes along River Road, serves the senior centers, Willamette View and Rosevilla, and then heads out River Road kind of past Jones House. And we're proposing then to have that cross over McLaughlin and Concord, although I'll cover this later, but so Oatfield and River, both the north and south, they get increasingly close to McLaughlin, so much so that one might even be able to walk. So the idea is to try to serve the furthest parts away from McLaughlin with one bus line rather than having two running parallel there. There are some little nuggets that I'm hopeful that will actually prove attractive. For example, the senior centers along River don't have a one-seat ride to groceries, and the Walmart Neighborhood Market is on Concord. We're actually going to have to revise that and probably use Oak Grove instead, but there's a Fred Meyer there. So, we're trying hard to find ways, even in a tough situation, to find where there might be some positive benefit here. We already talked about, yes.
Before you move on, one of these changes, and I'm not sure if it's that one, but one of these changes is what took the bus off of Lake Road from between Oatfield and 224.
That's 32.
Is that
Yeah,
the 32?
that was on that.
So I did want to bring that up vis-a-vis the questions Councilor Stevendorf was asking about schools, because that's a middle school there.
And that terrain there coming around on 32, like that steepness, and I mean, there's nowhere to walk if you're walking places. So was that, the topography, was that considered?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. We did do an analysis that highlighted geographic challenges relative to these changes. That one's definitely a challenge. I'm not going to say it's that we have a great solution there, but what I will say is that the ridership is very low. Where in the city of Portland, where high schools, we are the bus service. Other school districts have bus service, and so we see a different ridership pattern around schools in areas that are not Portland Public Schools. But the portion along Oatfield, north of Oak Grove, and then along Lake Road there, other than that big draw, which is the big challenge, I think, is what you're pointing at. There, parts of it do get closer to other bus routes. But that's what's on this line. On the left, you see the line 29 that you're talking about on Lake Road. We're proposing to shift that over to International Way, which enables eliminating line 152. So line 29 then becomes more continuously through Focus Valley industrial areas. It does have some positive opportunity to potentially link together all the businesses along International Way in a more direct way than they are now. And it reduces some loop duplication out in Johnson City along Webster routes and Johnson Road, where we shift some other bus lines to cover those areas. Those are the routes in the Milwaukie area that are up for proposal.
Can you clarify, the 34 will now end at the Tacoma station, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a cost neutral change. We're essentially just giving the Johnson Creek Linwood section of it to the 40 at its same frequency to create a one-seat ride to downtown from Clackamas Town Center.
And does the frequency of the 29 change at all?
No, and we took care to preserve the new connection to Lake Road Health Center, where we recently added midday service. The 29 hasn't had midday service for many years, and we added that after the Lake Road Health Center is opened, and we took care to preserve that connection and frequency.
And is that seeing ridership?
She likes that one.
Some, yeah. But I know it may not be a lot, but I know it's a lifeline for a lot of folks. With all of our proposals, we do, as required through the FTA circular, we are required to do a Title VI analysis. We've done a preliminary analysis based on the proposal that looks for disproportionate burden on low income or disparate impact on minorities, and that is not showing any impact there on a system-wide level. Where we operate service then, of course, has an impact on where we operate our paratransit, so door-to-door service for those with disabilities. Lyft, if you're familiar with the name, is determined on 3/4 of a mile from our fixed route bus service. And so the good thing about this network change focus is that it largely preserved the Lyft boundary. So where someone in Milwaukie sees Lyft service today, that will go unchanged by this proposal.
Oh, go ahead. I'm just reading just trying to clarify. So the 2,463 Lyft boardings is what's going to be impacted every year with these cuts? So what exactly is the impact?
So
like, do they just not have access to rides?
Areas, which is Stafford, Lake Oswego, West Lynn, Tualatin, and south, a little portions of Pleasant Valley south of Gresham there. Those are the areas where we've got some route changes that would affect the Lyft boundary.
These are areas we would no longer serve with Lyft.
What, if anything, do you know is going to fill that gap?
That's a good question.
We do, well, I will say, just like I kind of gave you a little preview, so based on public outreach and some that I'll talk about more about JC will talk more about in a minute, but we are looking at some revisions, and I'll already say that we solved the Tualatin hole, so that impact in Tualatin will not change. Lake Oswego, Stafford area, we do partner with Ride Connection on some essential service for trips. So there may be some options for some folks there. We also pass through some of our STIF dollars to Clackamas County, and they are looking at what they might do to help backfill some things. But those are the two things that
Luckily, we actually know who these people are, and so we would, if this is approved, we would work directly with them to figure out a plan of attack, so.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what happens generally outside the TriMet service district is they're either nonprofits or some limited state programs, depending on where you are, that step up to serve. But
Yeah.
that is not to minimize the impact.
Right. I mean, you guys are
Because
trying to do
TriMet
what
is
you can, so.
faster and more responsive than most of those programs.
Right.
And easier to navigate.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a really big deal.
It's a lot easier to get a ride with that.
So then, when you say that Clackamas County has some STIP dollars that might mitigate this impact, what would that actually look like what would Clackamas County feasibly do? Would they increase service through ride connection? Would they, are they thinking of standing up their own separate service? What are their options?
I would say the best answer would be to talk to Clackamas County. Christina Babcock manages that, but we coordinate with Clackamas County a little bit. And I know that she is looking at, they operate a shuttle in Oregon City that many people feel like is actually kind of duplicative with ours. And so she's exploring an idea where she would kind of untangle a loop that they do down just in Oregon City and extend it to actually possibly cover some of the portions of Oatfield and Lake that we might be vacating. But top line answer is talk to Clackamas County.
And I think Council President Anderson gets some of this in C4. Some of this stuff comes to C4.
Yes.
So if they come up with potential solutions.
I'll be sure to bring it back. When TriMet has presented in the past, I think some big themes that emerged were that McLaughlin area connection, that area around Wilsonville, concerns about just where do you find that transit access. But also the theme that I think Grant had mentioned before, across the entire region, the priorities were very inelastic. Everyone has similar priorities, and so I think that at least is some grounding principle that even the folks in Clackamas County see the challenges in the same way.
My overall worry is that we're rolling back some of the progress that's been made over the last 30 years in Clackamas County. I remember the community outreach that I participated in when the Green Line was just a twinkle in our eye, and there has been a lot of pushback around having transit extend into Clackamas County, and so that weakening concerns me. There are a lot of different individual independent transit options that exist in Clackamas County that have been set up to mirror what TriMet does for a lot of different reasons. But then I wonder, if we're changing course and investing in those to strengthen the network in rural communities, then what would that do to eventual transit ridership expansion into those communities as we're seeing population booms, on the edge of the urban growth boundary? Those things concern me. And I know that that's not lost on you, but what we're hearing in themes as far as the impacts to Clackamas County, it brings me back to those moments where, there were tables much like this, and we were fighting so hard to get these expansions. And now we're watching those shrink. And I don't want that repetition of history to be lost in this process.
Really well spoken. I'm glad you're in the position that you are. I share a lot of that same sentiment. I think we all do. What I will say is that the Green Line, so back up, top level, the directive here is to cut by 10%. This proposal, what likely our board is going to have to vote on is in the neighborhood of 5%. So the bad news is we have more to come. We'll be back next year. But the good news is, by looking, the approach that we tried to take by looking at, like the Green Line, where there are two other lines running in parallel and trying to reduce the redundancy, this lift map would probably work. I'm proud at how much we have been able to keep geographically by focusing on where things are redundant. That's not to say that this is not still a cut.
Sure.
And I totally hear you, it is.
I would also just say, oh, go ahead.
That's why you mean, the very first slide, you said we're talking about cuts. So yes, I completely understand, you're the buzzkill team. Yes, I understand that. And it's not a good position for you to be in, going out to all of the different communities and delivering horrible news, right? And that's news that your board is chewing on, that all of your staff and administration are chewing on. That I don't mean to diminish that in this line of questioning.
I think you're raising it.
Okay.
You're doing what your electors wanted you to do, so your constituents.
It just, what worries me is that there has not been historically a lot of advocacy for transit expansion in Clackamas County. And as cuts are being implemented for very valid reasons in isolation by line specific or region specific or service specific, I worry about us inching backwards the progress that we've made in Clackamas County. And I just want to make sure that that is on the record, and I can see by your nods that this is also weighing on your minds.
And
thank you.
Because I can maybe say things that you can't say. So, because I'm the baby. I did offer her up to my colleague actually for his trip out in some less friendly council meetings. He did not take her, but I think he should have.
Rookie move.
I know, I was like, she's really cute. And you can hold her up and then they can't throw things at you. But I think you have hit at what is the fear that keeps me up at night when I think about this is less this set of cuts and the set of cuts next year.
Yep.
Absolutely keep me up at night. What keeps me up what makes me much more worried is what happens after that, right? What do we need to do as a transit agency, as a community, as a state? What do we need to do to make sure that this does not become the beginning of a death spiral for transit in our region? We are seeing that happen in other places around the country. We are seeing places like Philadelphia just eliminate entire huge chunks of their light rail lines, just overnight, honestly. So this is the question. How do we make sure we have to make these cuts? How do we make sure that there are people that we come back to serve, that this is something that we can come back and build out of, rather than Grant's job being really terrible for the next 20 years. And I think that's something we all need to grapple with. It's something that we're talking about at the board level. It's something that I hope once we get through this first round of cuts, we can put some of our best and brightest to thinking about. I also think that you are particularly well situated in Clackamas County to raise these questions and say, look, actually Clackamas, we may not feel like it. Sometimes we have really tense relationships with TriMet. Sometimes we're not the best of friends, but we have actually all done a lot of work to try to get more service into Clackamas County, and we don't want this step backward to be a retreat. We just want it to be a step back. And I think that can impact when Clackamas is thinking about how do they serve and support the Lyft customers who are impacted. This is a literal lifeline for a lot of those folks. So I am like, however Clackamas County can step up is what they need to do. But can they do that in ways that maybe don't duplicate service so that it is easy to untangle when we get to come back here in 5 years and rebuild service even better, right? That is my vision. It's like, how do we come back out of this? Can they think about, okay, we're gonna run this shuttle here, which is gonna keep these kids still understanding the concept of a bus and still used to getting around on a bus as part of the way they get around. and gonna serve that, and then, ready to shift that when TriMet can come back in and TriMet can run that on a full 40-foot bus instead of a smaller, something smaller. So I guess my ask is that you can help remind Clackamas of the work that the county and all of your counterparts and cities across the county of the work that you've done together to get us here, that we've done together to get us here. And this is bad times. Let's not build something in this moment of bad times that keeps us from coming back. I don't know what that is. That's what as soon as we have a chance to take a breath, that's what we're thinking.
I think that what would be very helpful for electeds in our jurisdictions across Clackamas County would be that as you deliver this, maybe also put in suggestions of like, these are some of the add backs that you can keep in mind as policymakers for the next 5 to 10 years.
I love that.
These are some of the things that you can be advocating for that offset these cuts, because we don't want these to be permanent. We don't as a region that supports transit, and we don't as individual entities that work collaboratively together.
In our best days.
In our best days, yeah. That this is like the forest through the trees.
I really like that.
Supposed to do with
Good job. You did.
It's my job.
I absolutely agree with you 100%, and you said it very well, and I agree so much. And I also just want to share too, and I don't necessarily know how much you know, but TriMet does fund Clackamas County for some of the shuttles, working with Clackamas County, Christina Babcock with Clackamas County Smart, or some of the other smaller entities to help connect them to TriMet service, and also to fill the gaps from here, in their areas. But I think it's something for us to take back, to even ping Christina to say, hey, we heard some more, some feedback from Milwaukie. How can we continue to work together? And trust me when I say, there has been a lot of creative energy. Grant and Tom on the team really smart. Could you take this part while we take this? And really working together, because that's what our taxpayers expect of us, right? So your comments are absolutely well taken.
I want to just say also is that within the last 3 general managers at TriMet, I've made it my mission to work closely with Clackamas County. Actually, a year and a half ago, when we installed service connected Westland, and I went out and took a picture with all the mayors in Clackamas County just to say that it is my priority to put more service in Clackamas County. We brought the line 76 over to Westland. So this is just a painful thing for all of us to sit here, but we can work together. I think the clear picture is, as we continue to work with lawmakers, all of us, is to really start telling the story on how we come up with a funding mechanism to be able to put more transit into the areas. And I think what we're doing now is really going back. We've put a strategic plan together that we will leave with you as well to really talk about the next 5 years, but also we're now looking at the next 10 years, talking about what transit looks like in our region and how we move forward with that.
Let me just quick wrap up.
Yeah.
Unless you want to.
No.
Grant. Well, just so you all know, so we took the proposal that, the full proposal out to the public early January, went through all the rigor of public outreach and we have heard a lot. Again, I think Grant made mention, we mailed it out to 250,000 people. And we've been doing a lot of outreach, much like you. We've been out in front of you, taking questions from elected officials and really getting out in the community. And so that is underway, and all of that has been informing what Grant and team are going to be releasing to the public next week. And so a lot of work. We have we have someone on our team who has read every comment in and has developed that set of feedback that Grant and his team have been on to really inform our proposal. 8,100 respondents, 5,500 comments. Again, we read every one of them. Some of the top themes that I wanted to share with you were about impact to work trips. So really understanding that what impacts my work trip and longer wait times. And I don't necessarily know if you know this, but one of the things that we know what builds ridership is frequency. If you don't have to think about it, that's when we have hit the sweet spot for when people will just take TriMet. One of the other comments, and just because we're dealing with some heavy stuff right now, one of the comments that made us warm inside was just the general appreciation for TriMet. And I share that with you because of all the things that people were saying, good and bad. One of the good things that they did share was just their appreciation for the service. So I want to share that. So all this feedback is being refined, again, Grant and team, and that proposal will go out next week. So just kind of looking at the timeline, we do have a board listening session where we're inviting people to come before our board on March 18th to just give testimony. We then have our first reading March 25th, and there's a public hearing at that as well. Our board then takes a vote in April, and then we move and implement all the changes in that proposal, barring any changes, by August 23rd. So, and then, as Grant said, there's still more bad news ahead. We will go out this fall with our next round. Probably third week in September is when we'll launch that to the public. So.
Can you talk to me a little bit about HB 4008 and what we're doing?
Well, yeah, we're right now we're in Salem. We're having lots of questions or conversations with lawmakers as the session is coming to an end. We have really been working with them to figure out transit funding, right? We have heard, with 200 plus people signing a referendum to put it on the ballot, that there is obviously less of an appetite for more taxes. And so we have been pushing a bill, HB 4008, to put together a transit funding task force. So we'll see where that lands. Bringing a broad group of folks and electeds, business folks together to talk about what is a mechanism to further fund transit. And when I say fund transit, it's not just TriMet, it's transit districts across Oregon. So this isn't just a TriMet issue. But then also in parallel is the governor setting up a visioning task force around transportation. Director Frisbee has been tasked to sit on that committee, which we're very grateful for. So I think that we're hopeful in one or the other or both working together, but that we know that we need to get more support from around the state, from electeds, from business people, to figure that out. And I think that with all of us understanding the taxes that we pay in Oregon, I think now more than ever, it's trying to find out what could work and what would work. So trying to bring more voices to the table around that funding mechanism. So we'll see what happens.
And I think to your point, that is when we look at the next 5 to 10 years, in the same way that the transportation revenue is not meeting the needs of a lot of our road system, the way that we fund transit is not meeting the transit needs. And our transit needs are also changing. I mean, I think COVID has shifted the way that people are interacting with actually almost every part of their urban landscape. And we have to figure that out. That's something that is part of our job, is how do we serve people? One of our policy and planning leads talks about, if people used to take TriMet to work 5 days a week, we met 100% of their community needs. If they only go into the office 3 days a week now, they take TriMet all 3 of those days, we're still meeting 100% of their needs, but our ridership looks really different. We have to figure out how do we meet and serve people. But the funding challenge is really significant. The way we are funded now will not let us build a transit system that this region deserves and this region wants. And so that is something we need to work on in Salem. Frankly, I don't know that I can speak. I ask for your help going down to Salem and helping them understand how critical this is. We need your help coming together as a region, getting all of our folks, all of our partners at the table to think about what do we really want? How do we figure out how this is gonna work? Because we don't wanna be here now, and we don't wanna be doing this again. And so there will be a shift. What we're doing right now is not what we're gonna do. Like, if it is what we're doing in 5 years, we're in a world of hurt. And so that is to say, I think we're at a time where all of our creative brains are needed. We're all gonna have to think about this differently. And we are asking for your help and your support as we start to work through this. So.
And why would there even be any question in Salem about HB 4008? I mean, that is what they do in Salem, is create task forces to study things. Why would there not, why is there some doubt of that, about that passing?
No doubt at the moment.
Okay, okay.
It comes at a nominal cost, right, to run a task force. There's staff and administrative costs associated with that.
Nothing's free.
Nothing's free.
I just want to thank you. I want to let you know too, it's starting internal to the organization. So I am leading the executive team, and we're going to right-size the internal portion of the organization to live within our means, meaning that the revenues that are coming in, we're going to right-size the agency to live there. So we'll have a more slimmer organization. We're going to be more effective. I'm asking the folks to do more with less as we move forward. So you'll be hearing a little bit about that, changes that are coming for this fiscal year budget, this next fiscal year budget that will be taken to the board here in March. We take our budget FY27 to the board on March 25th. So you'll see a significant decrease in our budget as we move forward, because one, I can't ask you to take cuts and not take care of you inside of TriMet. So that's the first piece of it. And then as they talk about the 10% service cut, it's kind of last on my list to do. We're gonna try to go out and look at every avenue that we can look at with the board and with others to minimize the cuts to the community, because we're about people and making sure that people get opportunities. And that's the last thing that we want to do, is to be able to do that. And then again, our internal piece, we're looking at a $99 million cut internal to the organization, along with the service reductions that you'll see for next year. So again, trying to right-size our expenses to the revenues that we are bringing in. So we're very steep. So that's going to change, and we're going to level that out in the next year. So thank you all. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you guys for coming to our meeting and bringing.
Thank you for the reality of childcare in America is that she comes to a lot of public meetings.
And I don't think it's been since the Orange Line, but we certainly shouldn't wait 10 more years.
Agreed.
I know I met with you before.
I met you at the community college, I think.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
She rolls.
We'll make sure, Mayor.
Yeah. Okay. Any last questions before they go?
One last thing that I'll say, I know I talked to you about this a bit, John, as you were coming around talking about cuts, but I'd love for us to have a follow-up conversation. We talked about this a little bit in our SDC conversation, but what are some of the things that we can do to encourage transit-oriented development to really drive ridership? PSU has done some great studies that show when we build places in areas that have transit service, you generate rides. And I think, to your point, Councilor Stephen, there's a lot of a 5-year horizon of things that we can do. And starting that now in our city, I think would be a good role model for the rest of Clackamas County and the region.
No, I can offer, in my day job, I run the Institute of Metropolitan Studies at PSU, and if we could help host like a couple of PSU faculty and then TriMet staff and whoever from the city to do some planning or workshops or something.
I'll say also, Council President, that we have a full TLD team at TriMet. We're building a 204 apartment condo at our Hollywood station currently now that we're working with. And one of the things that's really admirable about TriMet we have built quite a few different locations in the region, and we could definitely partner with you and have those conversations.
Well, Tyler's got the experience, he's got a lot too.
The TOD team is great.
Yeah.
We've actually developed more affordable houses than some of the entities that are tasked with doing it.
Totally.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We are adjourned, 6:30.